Welcome to my channel. I am the loud little ducky. Well, we have Gingrich at it again. He just continues to blog and blog because he has to explain things. He's got to make us just stupid people just understand, right? Well, let's see what we can debunk. So, pulling straight from his blog post on his website, I will have that linked in the description box so you can go look at it yourself. We have done videos on every blog post that pertains to the Owens v. Echard case. If you want to check out those videos, it says, let's talk about lies, part 2, on May 2nd, 2024. A while ago, I wrote a post with bullet points that Laura's critics have passed off as truth. The third point on the list was number 3. Clayton says Laura has done this to other men. I'm going to skip point 2 for now, and let's talk about point 3. Laura has done this to other men. Sounds bad, right? But is it true? Yes. Yes, it is. Many a men. Let's talk about it. One of the other men frequently discussed is a guy named Michael Maraschini. She calls him Mike, so I'll use that for now. If you have followed the story, you will know the cult. Sir, we are not in a cult. We are out here looking at truth, looking at documents, and just discovering things. And we show people so that they can make up their own mind. They can share the opinion that we have, or they can disagree with the opinion that we have. It doesn't make any difference. All are welcomed. But the cult claims Laura faked being pregnant with Mike. And every time that story is repeated, it's spoken about as if this is a statement of true facts. Laura lied about Mike's baby, but is this true? If you go back and watch my Michael Maraschini videos, I try to be about as unbiased as I possibly can, knowing what I know. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt, like maybe at this point she wasn't lying. But then there are inconsistencies in her story. And by the time I get to the end of certain things in that scenario, parts of it don't make sense. I don't know if she was pregnant with his baby. But what I do know is that the pregnant history that she gave to Mom Doc, see my short, does not list being pregnant with a baby in 2016, 2017, or even 2018. So why did she lie about her pregnancy history if she was in fact pregnant with Mike's baby? Why is it not listed? Can you answer me that? Gingrich goes on, before I get into the details, there is something very important you need to understand. Have you ever seen a TV show or a movie about a court case and one of the lawyers jumps up and shouts, "Objection, foundation"? Do you know what this means? I'll explain it. Okay, now he's going to treat us like idiots once again. Foundation, and I'm going to say it before I look at what he's going to say. You have to lay the foundation for the evidence you're bringing in. Where did you get it from? Whose is it? Date, time, like all that, because you need to have obtained it from an original source. The dates have to pertain to the case, and so forth. And that's why we talk about the metadata and not screenshots and originals. We want to know where these originals came from. That is what we are trying to do. So I think the so-called cult Pond Scum Posse have a pretty good idea of what foundation is, because we want to get the foundation of this stuff and where it came from. But let's see what Gingrich said. Says, I'll explain. When a lawyer objects to foundation or lack of foundation, that's our shorthand way of saying we don't believe the witness has been shown to have something called personal knowledge. Okay, what's so special about personal knowledge? And the thing is us that are reviewing this, we don't have personal knowledge technically. Like Dave Neal has talked to people, so he has a closer personal relationship, but none of us were there when it happened. None of us went through it ourselves or anything like that, which none of us are claiming to. We are just an outside perspective looking in. But the people that do have the personal knowledge of evidence and where all it comes from are involved in this case. Michael Maraschini has personal knowledge. He knows the who, what, when, where, why. Okay, maybe not the why, because nobody can figure out why Owens seems to do this nonsense. But he has personal knowledge. Us on the internet, no. We're going off of things that we see in court documents and such. But, hey, we're stupid, right? This is law school 101 stuff, but basically the rules of evidence say a witness can only testify about a thing if that person first shows they have personal knowledge of the subject matter they want to discuss. This comes straight from Rule 602 of the Rules of Evidence. That link is for the AZ rules, Arizona rules, but the federal rules are identical. Rule 602, need for personal knowledge. A witness may testify to a matter only if evidence is introduced sufficient to support a finding that the witness has personal knowledge of the matter. Evidence to prove personal knowledge may consist of the witness's own testimony. This rule does not apply to a witness expert testimony under Rule 703. So, let's see here. Let's take the Chad Daybell trial that's going on right now. The reason that they have certain people come in and testify. Let's see. Like the bodies, for instance. The cop is going to come in and testify to the fact that they were there, they found the bodies, and so forth. And then they have another person that comes in and is like, here is the pictures of every layer of bringing up these bodies. And the reason that he comes in and says that is because he's the one that took them. The cop can't bring those in because the cop didn't take those pictures. So they came from this person. The cop, even though they looked at cell phone data, they're not the ones who extracted it and found the Google searches and everything. They can say that they know about it through investigating this case, but for those to come in, the person who found the Google searches and extracted that cell phone stuff, they have to come in and testify because they have the personal knowledge. I hope that makes sense and put it in an example. So Michael Barashini can come in and testify because he has personal knowledge of the matter, and he can be a witness in this case if Woodnick so chooses. Let's move. Oh, he's going to give us an example. Okay. The next text is pretty dry, so let me paraphrase. Witnesses aren't allowed to blow smoke out of their ass. If a witness wants to say something is true, they first have to answer one question. How do you know that? Here's an example of how this works in practice. Let's say you are involved in a case and you want to prove it snowed in Hawaii on December 25th, 2023. So you call a witness to the stand and ask them, "Witness, did it snow in Hawaii on December 25th, 2023? If this happens in court, your opposing counsel would immediately object, and then they would say, "Why? Lack of foundation." This is how a lawyer tells the judge you have not met the requirements of Rule 602 because you have not shown the witness has personal knowledge of this issue. You haven't explained how this person knows that. But this problem is easily fixed just like this. Before asking anything about the weather, Mr. Witness, were you physically present in the state of Hawaii on December 25th, 2023? And were you in a position to see the weather conditions on that date? And then if he answers yes, then he can obviously say, yes, it was snowing, or no, it wasn't snowing, according to his thing. But yes, you have to show how a person knows that. It can't be, oh, my mom was there in Hawaii and she told me that it was snowing on December 25th, 2023. Or my mom was there, she showed me a picture, so I learned from her. He doesn't have personal knowledge. His mom would have to come in and state that. But I'm pretty sure most of us understand that because we're not a bunch of dodo birds. Assuming the witness says yes, you then ask if they saw any snow in Hawaii on that date. With that simple intro, you are satisfied the requirements of Rule 602 by proving the witness was in a position to see the weather in Hawaii. You answered the question, how do you know what the weather was like in Hawaii? This quick little bit of foundation shows the witness has personal knowledge of the weather conditions in Hawaii on the date in question. I know that's boring and technical stuff, but trust me, it matters. It's not necessarily boring because we want to know how these people know. Like, we want to know those things, believe it or not. At least I do. Again, this is basic law school 101 level stuff, but if a witness can't show they have personal knowledge of a thing, that witness will not be allowed to testify about the thing. Period. I have literally won entire cases based on that one simple rule. As the example shows, establishing personal knowledge is usually not a big deal. If you want to ask a witness about topic X, before you dive into that topic, you just need to lay the foundation showing the witness has personal knowledge of topic X. It's easy assuming the witness knows what they are talking about, but most non-lawyers would never think about this. Except for the people that follow court cases gavel to gavel. That aren't lawyers. We know this stuff. But anybody that's not a lawyer obviously can't know anything about the law, right? According to him. You have to have a law degree to understand this stuff. No, you don't. It's also why in the Karen Reed case, every single paramedic, cop, everything that comes up, they're like, okay, how do you know this? Well, I've been a paramedic for this many years. My continuing education is current. This is what we do. And I was the person who was on scene when Karen Reed was hysterical. There's your foundation for how he knows this, and he's a paramedic, so he can talk about those things that have to do with the case. There's your foundation. It's not a hard concept. He's acting like it's the weirdest thing. And so he says, okay, with that boring intro behind us, let's get to the story of Mike Maraschini and why his deposition transcript is so completely devastating for the anti-Laura crew. The full transcript is at the end of this post, but I'll give you a summary. That will have to wait, but we will go through it because it's a lot. If y'all want me to go through it, I am more than happy to. But let's get all these crazy filings done before we jump into that. Mike and Laura met through an online dating app in early 2016. He talks about this on page 27 of his depo, and he's not 100% sure of the date or which app, but neither of those points are important. At the time, both Mike and Laura were living in San Francisco. Laura has told me she and Mike dated for a couple of years, but the exact start and end dates aren't clear from the records I've seen. For now, just assume the relationship lasted for at least a year, probably a little while longer, basically from early 2016 through late 2017. In mid-2016, Laura got pregnant. This was a medically confirmed pregnancy with multiple records to support it, including HCG tests and an ultrasound. At the time, Laura and Mike are both in their mid-20s. They both felt they were too young to have kids, so they decided abortion was the best option. Again, why is that not in her pregnancy history? That should be in her pregnancy history, but it's not. She just forgot about it. Laura went to Planned Parenthood in July of 2016, where she was given mifepristone, a pill to medically terminate the pregnancy. Unfortunately, the first pill didn't work, not unusual, and Laura continued to test positive for pregnancy. This resulted in her going back to Planned Parenthood a few weeks later with Mike. Again, plenty of records exist to support all of this. Are they screenshots or are they straight from Planned Parenthood? Because if it's screenshots and photos from Owens and her love for Adobe Photoshopping, I'm not buying a damn one of those. Maybe before we knew all of her love for arts and crafts, we would have bought that. Maybe in the very beginning of this case, if we were looking at it in 2016 and nothing else had happened, we might could buy that. Because who in their right mind would do this? Nobody, that's who. Nobody in their right mind. But your little client has proven she is untrustworthy and has zero credibility. So the plenty of records that exist, where are they and where did they come from? You have a lack of foundation, sir. You don't know. According to Laura, this was not an issue of her getting pregnant twice, and certainly not faking pregnancy twice. She got pregnant with Mike once, and it took a couple of doctor's visits to terminate the pregnancy. Mike participated in all of this and was fully aware that Laura was pregnant, and they jointly made the decision to terminate it. Mike was not there at any of this stuff confirming. All he got sent were documents from Owens. So he was not at those doctor's visits from my understanding. If I find out he was, I will take my statement back. And yeah, I know he wanted her to terminate it. And she used things and he's like, terminate it. Oh, you did this to me. Da 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 da. I'm not going to terminate it now, or, oh, you lied to me. You said you were going to be here for me if I terminated it, and I'm so depressed that I terminated it. Yeah, no. Here's a Planned Parenthood record showing the follow-up trip, and Laura also discusses this at length in the declaration. I'm adding to the end of this post. Importantly, Laura's declaration was written back in 2018, long before this whole mess with Clayton ever happened. Yes, we went over her declaration and how certain things were missing, and then they got added back in. Certain things got added that weren't there originally. So we've seen those. But here's the picture of her Planned Parenthood. This looks photoshopped. This 8, 10, 16, it looks weird to me. This 1, 6 is not even, it's not. And it's a picture of her holding something that she can go in and edit. I don't give a crap about what this is. But talks about she was 26, at 2 p.m., office visit, establishment. You're an established patient at Planned Parenthood. How sad is that? Reasons for visit. 1. Counseling/education. Comments. Ultrasound shows retroverted uterus tissue remains. Blood test shows elevated HCG levels from last visit. Patient took mifepristone 600 milligrams in the office. Instructed to take 800 misoprostol in 24 hours to evacuate remains. If successful, D&E to take place at follow-up. So if she's been through this, and she has aborted a baby, then why, when she miscarried or aborted a baby, she didn't go to the hospital for a D&E or a D&C, whatever you want to call it? Patient instructed to make appointment for follow-up in 1 week. J. Chavez, RHS. Subjective history, 26 years old, last menstrual period. Patient reported last menstrual period date as unknown. Pertinent patient information, last tobacco screening. Pregnancy symptoms, patient had aspiration abortion 8/2/2016, also attempted medical abortion twice and says the results were more like spotting than consistent bleeding. Failed abortion. Counseling. Patient maintains that she does not desire pregnancy. Pertinent history. No history of ectopic tubal pregnancy. Recheck if symptoms worsen. HX is shorthand in the medical for history. I'm also going to check and see if I can find the Planned Parenthood paper from Clayton's case that was done in California. I wonder if it looks like this. So if I find it, I'm going to insert it in the next slide. Gingers goes on to say, unlike Clayton, the pregnancy and abortion was not the end of Laura's relationship with Mike. No, it wasn't. They continued dating for many more months, and yes, Laura will admit she struggled with some emotional issues during that time. That's hardly unusual, especially when you understand how Mike treated her. During their relationship, Laura was extremely generous with Mike. She paid to take him to Dubai. She bought him expensive gifts, including a $10,000 watch. She claims Mike even called her his sugar mama. I don't care what she claims. He could have said that as a joke. And she could be purchasing the Iceland and the Dubai trips and the $10,000 watch as a way to be like, oh, look what all you get when you're with me. Like, this is I'm going to buy you all these things. Please stay with me and look what we can do. Like, she could have been using that as bargaining. But we also know her parents begged Mike to stay with her. And I don't know about the lying about the pregnancy in Maraschini's case. But I don't buy the fact that he was abusive. I don't, because that's where there was inconsistencies and things. It was, oh, he automatically did this. I think she put it in her head because Mike was mean to her, and a lady on the plane told her, you're being verbally abused, and so she took it and ran with it. And then made our claims at him that I don't think are true. I don't know for certain. I don't have enough information. But her history doesn't make it look good. And that's the problem when you have zero credibility and you lie about so much. How are we supposed to believe that she wasn't lying then? We have to question everything. That's what happens when you're a liar. Same with Amber Heard. We can't believe a word she says because she lied about one thing, so she could be lying about everything. It's why it's good to just be truthful and honest and not don't do fraud on documentation and submit it to the court. She's known to do this. And I get that a part of things, certain things are, well, just because she did it in that case doesn't mean she did it in this case. Or just because he's killed somebody before doesn't mean that he killed this person this time. I get that. But sometimes you have to look at it, and you look at it to determine credibility. On December 30th, 2016, Laura paid for a trip to Iceland with Mike. According to Laura's declaration at the end of this post, the Iceland trip cost at least $15,000, and she emptied her child savings account to pay for it. And then here's a picture of them on their Iceland trip. While Laura and Mike may have looked like a happy couple on the outside, according to Laura, Mike had a very dark and abusive side. In her declaration filed in California back in 2018, Laura described the verbal abuse she received from Mike on the flight back from Iceland. This abuse was witnessed by a fellow passenger, a complete stranger, who later confirmed Laura's version of what occurred. Yeah, verbal abuse, or him talking down to her on a plane. That doesn't show he AR'd her or hit her or anything. Strangled her, none of that. He saw her, the stranger saw him be rude to her, basically. And then it goes over part of her thing during the flight to San Francisco to Iceland. Maraschini berated me nonstop for hours. He criticized me for nearly everything I said or did. He said I turned my head unnaturally fast. There was something wrong with me. He criticized my career, told me I was bad at my job and worthless. He told me I was ugly and nobody ever wanted to date me. And this is something that made me question things too. When I would try to kiss him and cheer him up, he'd tell me I was gross and a bad kisser. If somebody is doing this to you, you're not trying to kiss them. And he is not going to be accepting your kisses if he is pissed off at you like that. So yeah, maybe he did say this because you were bothering him. Who's kissing somebody that's berating them and telling them all this stuff? Who's trying to do that? Nobody. That's who. He said I was bad in bed. He said he wanted to have a threesome because she was so boring. one of the threesome with my sister or a black man. He said it would turn him on to watch me have sex with somebody else. I told him no, felt uncomfortable. He seemed to enjoy putting me down. His criticism went on for hours, and I cried through the entirety of the flight. That's what she says. After Iceland, according to Laura, things went from bad to worse. According to her sworn declaration filed in the court in California, Mike began physically assaulting her, including strangling her during sex and verbally abusing her. According to Owens, who lies, she says this. Now tell me how I'm supposed to believe her. And then it says, I had hoped the abuse would stop. Once we came home, it didn't. He became more aggressive after he lost his job. He strangled me every time we did it, 4 to 5 times per week, at least 100 times. And then this is about smacking her bottom more than 50 times in a row. He would tell her to take Ambien to make it funner and so he could have his way. He's like, it felt like abuse, not loving and intimate. I often cried when he did it with me. And then she would say, after we did it, I would tell him he hurt me and ask him to stop strangling me. He'd apologize sometimes and said that he just lost control. He'd swear he was going to work on himself and promise to stop. Other times he'd brush it off and act like I enjoyed it, even though I repeatedly told him I did not. On numerous occasions, he told me the control was a turn-on for him and that he needed it since she was boring and vanilla. Says Laura eventually ended the relationship with Mike in late 2017. He says there's conflicting things on that. She says he ended it. Mike says he did. Or he tried to get her to go away. She claims he began stalking her as a result and was fearful for her safety. Well, Mike says that she stalked him and he was fearful for his safety. Laura applied for a restraining order against Mike. Here's the complete copy of the file. Complete copy of the file from that case. I'm gonna have to click on that. Yeah, she went and got a restraining order. Because that's her go-to. And you have to start to wonder, ma'am, why does every person you get with, you end up with a restraining order against them? They all do this. There are just so many. Things are not identical. Each one is a little bit different because each man is a little bit different. But there is a pregnancy mentioned, an abortion mentioned. There is her telling them, if you stay with me or this and this, I'll have the abortion. If not, I'm going to keep it. So ultimatums, basically. And then there's restraining orders or protection orders put in and so forth. So there are like 5 things that are in every single one of these guys' story for the last 10 years. How does that happen? Because she is either the most unlucky person on earth or something doesn't add up. Because there is one common denominator, and that's Owens. And we've got guys from California, we've got guys from Arizona. And how she gets into contact with these guys. Like, it's just, there's so many similarities. All the little details in between are not necessarily the same, but the main points are. Now, having said all this, you may be asking yourself, Hang on. So Laura claims Mike was an abusive boyfriend. So what? You haven't explained why any of this guarantees a win for Laura. And that's right, I haven't explained it yet. So I'll do it right now. Was anybody asking that before I got to that? Because I sure as heck wasn't. At the start of this post, I explained the concept and the rules, which requires proof of a witness has personal knowledge of something before they are allowed to testify about anything. Remember that? Who does he have personal knowledge of? Owens. He has personal knowledge of Owens. Not during this. Well, and he can say during this time period because she keeps renewing this restraining order thing on him. And I hope Maraschini gets his day in court so he can get all this cleared up. And so it says, at the start of this post, I explained the concept, allowed to testify, remember that. Now, keeping the concept of personal knowledge in mind, go back and read through Mike's deposition. Show me a single example of him offering any explanation to show how he has personal knowledge of Laura faking being pregnant. You can't because it's not there. And FYI, personal knowledge means personal knowledge. Hearing something from a third party is hearsay, not personal knowledge. Okay, so the things that Maraschini knew back when his relationship was going on, he didn't even think that Owens was doing this. But when it became guy after guy after guy, and he's like, that sounds a lot like what I went through with her. He started figuring it all out. The more in-depth things got, and he's still figuring things out and learning things to this day. Yesterday, he's still learning a whole lot, and because he didn't question it or know about any of it back then doesn't mean that he's not uncovering it now. So I believe he has personal knowledge of dealing with her. Look specifically at his discussion of the pregnancy between pages 45 through 47 of the depot transcript. As you read this, try to ask yourself, okay, the witness is saying he doesn't think Laura was pregnant, but how does he know that? How does he personally know she was not pregnant? So in his deposition, he is claiming that he doesn't believe or know if she was actually pregnant or not. Why? Because he didn't go to the doctor's appointments. He didn't go to the Planned Parenthood. He didn't go with her to take the abortion pills. He had the same discussion about abortion pills with her as every other guy has. Take the pill. Get rid of the baby. And then they say whatever to get her to take the pill because they don't want to deal with her. They don't want to deal with a pregnancy. They don't want to have a kid with her. So they do that. Whether people believe that's right or wrong, that's what they've done. So how does he have personal knowledge that she was? Because she showed him stuff that I believe she's trying to use in this case currently with Echard? I can't prove that yet because I can't get her medical records from Planned Parenthood. But I hope that they have gone back to 2016 and gotten her records then and compared to the Planned Parenthood crap she's saying in Clayton's case. Because I think it might be one and the same with some doctoring. Remember, a witness can't say it snowed in Hawaii on Christmas 2023 unless they first prove that they were in Hawaii on that date. So again, ask yourself, what proof does Maraschini offer to show he personally, that's how he spelled it, knew Laura lied about being pregnant? He would just be saying what he dealt with. And if Maraschini doesn't get to speak in this case, I don't even know if there's going to be time for that. But I'm hoping one day he gets to uncover it and have his day in court and have justice for himself with everything that he finds out about what she did to him. It just may be, 7, 8 years later, which sucks because he's had to deal with it for that long. But they say the truth always comes out. Mike is very clear about how he knows that. He does not know that. He offers nothing but pure speculation. None of this even comes close to clearing the hurdle of personal knowledge. In fact, he even says repeatedly he believes she probably was pregnant the first time, but he apparently forgot the first time was in fact the only time. Maybe he has memory or mental issues, but the records on this are clear. Laura was only pregnant once with Mike, but she had to go back a couple of times after the pills didn't work the first time. That's probably why Mike thinks it was 2 pregnancies. It wasn't. It was just one, and in his own words, Mike admits he thought she probably was pregnant. Oops. Yes, maybe in his deposition back in 2017, 2018, whenever it was done, maybe he thought she was. But in 2024, he may not have that same view. And he may have more proof about how she lied. And we don't know if she lied to him and told him she was pregnant again. According to Laura, there was only one time. But that doesn't mean that she didn't try to tell him that a second time. Who knows how much she gets knocked up? My opinion, I don't know that she has been. Folks, it doesn't get much clearer than that. Nothing with your client is clear. Nothing is black and white. There's always a bunch of gray in dealing with Owens. Mike doesn't have personal knowledge of anything regarding Laura faking a pregnancy. If he tried to say that at trial in our case, I'd object to lack of foundation, and separately that he's just speculating about this. If Mike suddenly drops a shocking new level of clarity about this, I hope he can explain why he answered differently in his deposition 6 years ago. Because more has been uncovered in 6 years. That's why. That's how he can explain that. You dodo. Note, Laura informs me Mike's story about her father somehow admitting Laura lied about being pregnant is also 100% false. I haven't met Laura's dad yet, but I'll go ahead and verify his side of things as soon as I can. But if the evidence stays this way, moving forward, Laura's critics are going to have a very, very hard time avoiding liability for defamation. Once again, nobody is getting sued. Okay, maybe somebody's going to get sued for defamation. Nobody is going to end up having a case. You're most certainly not going to win a defamation case because all of us have reason to believe. We have a reason to believe that what we're saying and what we're reporting and going over is true. You cannot be sued for truth. And we have all the evidence in the world backing up why we are thinking the way we are thinking. waste your time and waste your money. So here's part of the deposition pages. Question. So you were just, so I'm clear, you were aware that she felt conflicted about terminating that, right? Maraschini answers, yes. Question. Okay, so Laura, I'm not clear about, is it your position that she wasn't actually pregnant? Maraschini answers, I don't think she was pregnant 2 times. I think one of them was a made-up story, and I think one might have been legitimate. So he believes that she was at one time. Question, which one do you think was legitimate? Maraschini says, the first time. Question, why do you think she was pregnant the second time? Or why do you think? I think she did that to keep me around because I think she was going through a lot at the time. She said, abortion? Maraschini says, maybe on the first go around. I don't know. I still, to this day, don't think she was pregnant. Okay, so he's saying he doesn't think she was pregnant. Question, so do you think she was pregnant at all? Maraschini, I don't think she was pregnant because of all the stories. The timelines never made sense. So I don't, looking back now at the time, I definitely thought she was, but looking back now, I don't. So at the time when it was happening, he believed it. Now, with context, he doesn't. And even more so in 2024, he doesn't. Question, okay. So I just want to be 100% because I thought earlier you said you didn't think she was pregnant one of those times. So is your story that you don't think she was ever pregnant? Maraschini's answer, if she was pregnant, I believe it was the first time. But looking back now, I don't know if she was ever pregnant. So at the time, I don't know how to give you a clear answer on this because at the time I thought she was pregnant both times because I'm not going to go and study the timeline of pregnancies and do everything like that. That's okay, Maraschini. We've got you. We'll do it. But looking back now, I think one of the pregnancies or both were made up. Question says, okay. So that is what he gives us at the deposition. And he's saying he doesn't believe her. Plain and simple. And then this is where he copied the deposition of Owens v. Maraschini thing. That's just the front of it. And then he attaches her declaration, which it's fun to see what Laura's mind says, but we have gone over this in the Maraschini videos. Laura Owens, declares as follows. 1. I make all the statements hereon of my own personal knowledge, except as to those matters stated on information and belief, and as to those matters I believe them to be true, and if called as a witness, could and would testify completely thereto. Now, why couldn't Maraschini say that in this case? History of the relationship. Mr. Maraschini and I were romantically involved in March 2016 until late fall 2017. Contrary to what he alleges in his declaration filed on January 22, 2018, we did not stop dating in March 2017. In my head, we were still dating till the fall of 2017, not the spring. I met Mr. Maraschini in March 2016, though, through The League, a dating app for professionals that use the profile and LinkedIn stuff. It says he was in real estate development, and I was like, oh, she really likes these real estate guys. Then there was screenshots of it, and that he asked her to dinner and she accepted. Initially, Maraschini was charming, very charming. In the earlier months of our relationship, we saw each other often and seemed to have a lot in common. Mr. Maraschini showed interest in my career. I am the CEO of Quartet Farms. a company that buys and sells show horses. He talked about his career ambitions, said he was a real estate developer and that he had his real estate license. He also frequently talked about many job offers at big development firms. I wanted to be with somebody who was career oriented like me and thought we were a good match. We talked about love for animals and animal welfare, which he claimed to care deeply about. He also often talked about his alleged relationships with celebrities. He liked that my father, Ron Owens, is a famous local talk show host and was excited at the prospect of meeting celebrities. She's painting him as a narcissist and that he was using her to get to celebrities. In or around late May or early June 2016, I was asleep when I suddenly was struck in the face by Mr. Maraschini. I don't know exactly how he hit me. I think it was either his elbow or his fist that hit me near my eye. I can't say for sure, but I believe he may have been asleep and involuntarily hit me somehow. I had a black eye for a day or two after this. One of his friends told me that one of his ex-girlfriends also woke up with black eyes because of Maraschini accidentally hitting her while he was asleep. So this is where she starts with, he says it's accidental, but I don't think it's accidental. This is when he started hitting me. See, Judge, he's an abuser. That's what all this is set up to paint. And if you want more details on that, I will have part 1 linked in the description box because that's where you'll want to start in the Maraschini thing. I may separate his stuff out now that we're going to have other videos going over more of his story. But we'll see. That is the end of his blog post. Were you convinced anymore of like that she's telling the truth? Because it didn't make me. I don't think he debunked a single one of our lies. Because there were no, like, we didn't state any lies. The cult is, Pawn Scum Posse is based in truth. I am not a part of Pawn Scum Posse, but I just stay in the little ducky pond, like across the way from their pond. But this is where we're going to end it today. Our quote of the day is, you can't start the next chapter of your life if you keep rereading the last one. And Owens keeps rereading it. She will not move on. She needs to close this chapter of trying to hoax people into staying with her, giving them ultimatums, using pregnancy, doctoring evidence and sonograms and lying. She needs to close that chapter. Stop going over and reading that same book, because that book didn't work. That's a horrible self-help book. Start a new one where you stop these shenanigans. Like, turn yourself around, get therapy, get help, find out why you do this. Do you have abandonment issues? What is your issue? And then once you figure that out, you can move on. And if there is something deep-seated within you that is causing you to do this, it's not an excuse, but you can start dealing with it and then healing from it so that you stop this toxic behavior. There's nothing wrong with having stuff internally that we haven't dealt with in life and we've just tried to bury it. But you have to deal with it and move on. You're sitting in the past because of somebody or something that hurt you that led to this toxic behavior. Because I would like to think that you are not just this pure evil person. You just want to be loved and you just want somebody to be with you. But this is not how you do it. And that is where it is. Hit that like button, subscribe on your way out, and hit that notification bell if you want to be reminded. Otherwise, you can just hit subscribe and just come check in on me every once in a while. But I will see you in the next one. Bye.